Recently, I had the honor of speaking to a group of death doulas. These are beautiful people who attend a person in hospice to assist with their care and their transition with grace and ease. I spoke about interspecies hospice situations and resources. Many of them had experienced something in their practice that I also encounter more often than I would hope. As an animal chaplain and communicator, about 80% of my work is with death and dying, helping both animal and person experience the process of dying and the aftermath with peace and serenity. I'd like to tell you the situation that I typically work with and then go back through each step of the way and show you the strategies that help both the person and the animal to experience the person's death with more ease and grace. So from an animal's point of view of their person's dying process, or even severe illness, and we ran across a lot of this during COVID too, when a person goes into the hospital or a hospice location, the animal becomes confused about what happened, especially when they don't return. The person is worried about their animal and may not have arranged for care in their absence, especially if the onset of illness was sudden. Some animals may spend time without care at all until the person's caregivers think about the animal and remember that it's there. When death occurs, whether it's at home or in a facility, the animal's frequently taken from their home and surrendered to a shelter. One minute they were in a familiar surrounding with person that they loved, and the next minute they're in a cage with lots of chaos and noise around them and unfamiliar surroundings and unfamiliar people as well, even if it's a thoughtful relative that has taken the animal. Or let's say the animal was taken by a thoughtful family member or friend and cared for. Then there are behavioral issues that come forward because of the unfamiliarity of surroundings, people they may not know, and no acknowledgement of the animal's grief process or the trauma of displacement. Or in some cases, the animal is euthanized because no one knew what to do. Let's go back to the beginning of that story. And I will show you the scenario as well as some resources for it. So let's say that the person goes into a hospital or a hospice location. The animal becomes confused about what happened, especially when they don't return. The animal's experience is that they know their person is ill or injured. They know something's off, and their primary concern is care of the person. The bond that they have with their person creates mutual anxiety and worry. The strategy is, and in many cases, I might add, the animal has been present with that person when no other person has. The person is usually close to their animal and very concerned for their care. And the person and the animal relate to each other's needs. The animal has a long history, a bond and a relationship with that person. The strategy that helps that situation is to tell the animal what's happening. They do understand. Anyone can explain that to the animal through visualization or communication about what is happening. Find out either through observation or communication what the animal wants or needs physically, emotionally, and mentally, and assure the animal's understanding of what will happen. Be mindful of the animal's quality of life while their person is dying. As much as their rhythm of the day can be maintained, and the pattern and the cycles of feeding, exercising, and socializing, that will certainly help both the animal and the person. The person worries about the animal and may not have arranged for care in their absence, especially if onset was sudden. Some animals may spend time without care until the person's caregivers think about the animal. So the experience is that the patient misses daily contact with their animal companion. They've set up daily rituals that are displaced for both the animal and the person. The animal's quality of life changes sometimes drastically, and both the animal and the person are hoping that caregivers and family members will do the right thing with regard to animal care and possible postmortem placement. Allow the patient to have a photo of their animal companion and give them updates on care or activity or phone photos daily. I recall a case with a Chihuahua and his person. She was in hospice at home in a hospital bed. They were used to snuggling constantly, and the person was distressed because she didn't have that closeness, that physical closeness that she was used to. And the animal, the Chihuahua, went underneath her hospital bed and wouldn't come out for anyone. He did not want to leave her. When we communicated with the Chihuahua, he really wanted to be in the bed with her, and that's what she wanted too. And as soon as that happened, they both calmed down. And that was able to be maintained for several days before the woman died. While the person is of sound mind and first enters a long illness or surgical process and recovery or hospice, have a conversation about a plan of care with family members regarding who will care for the animal according to the person's wishes and resources. Don't leave it up to just hoping people will do the right thing. A legal directive is the very best document to be drawn up for animal property. In Michigan, as in many states, animals are considered property. And it is important to include in this directive the timing of when it will go into effect. For example, when the person is too ill to care for the animal, or when the person dies, or when the person leaves the premises. If the family is not willing to care for the animal, or they're too involved in their own grief to manage it, direct the personal representative to find a sanctuary and to assure ongoing care. And the directive is a legal document. When death occurs, whether it's at home or in a facility, the animal's frequently taken from their home and surrendered to a shelter. 1 minute, they're in familiar surroundings with a person they loved, and the next minute, they're in a cage with chaos around them, noise and unfamiliar surroundings and people. The experience of the animal is that they get PTSD from that. They are traumatized. The animal doesn't know what happened to their person. Nobody told them. They don't know what will happen to themselves, or the animal's waiting to be euthanized. It's important to tell the animal what has happened to their person and to acknowledge their grief. They are sentient beings who grieve loss, particularly of those they were bonded to. Let the animal know they're going to have a life change. And then it's important to set up a durable power of attorney with a personal representative who's responsible for finances and property. And as I said before, animals are considered property in most states. And also the personal representative who knows the patient's wishes with regard to the animal. In most states, as I said, it's considered property, but veterinary care will require authorization as well as financial assurance that is legally binding. Ideally, the plan will be included in the will in detail, including what funds are available for ongoing care, who will care for the animal, and the location if it's not with the family. Name a successor if the desired person is not available. Also, at the end of this little talk, I will provide a resource list and alternatives to euthanasia that can be the responsibility of the personal representative. If an animal is taken by a family member or friend or adopted, there are behavioral issues that frequently will come forward because of the unfamiliarity of the surroundings. And the animal is usually in a process of PTSD and the trauma of displacement. It's really, really important to acknowledge their grief. They are sentient beings who grieve loss, particularly of those they were bonded to. And some breeds or species are more prone to severe grief and long periods of adjustment and recovery than others. German Shepherds and Chihuahuas are among those, but so are horses and rabbits. The trauma of separation, particularly when it's sudden, causes PTSD and chronic anxiety and vigilance in many animals, with side effects of aggression, depression, and withdrawal. It takes from 3 to 9 months for most animals to adjust to their new surroundings if they are adopted out by another member of the family or by another person. A good strategy is that ownership transfer must be very, very clear so that veterinary care can be continuous and can be provided. The veterinarian will ask for that. Offering information about the adjustment period, the grief, and the PTSD to patients and their families is helpful to provide support and understanding that will help the animal adjust with grace and ease to their new home. The expectations will match the reality. And in conclusion, just what is really important is to provide the same principles of hospice to the animal companion as we do to a member of the person's family, to create a space for the animal to accept the reality of its loss by validating their grief and providing the ability to communicate messages for their person before death through interspecies communication. And I would recommend a professional to do that. There is a list on my website that will be there as of February 2024. And my information is in the next slide. Help the animal to process the pain of grief by providing support for their quality of life. Clear communication of what is going to happen to them in their life change, and an opportunity to companion their person as much as possible before death. Help the animal rehabituate, restore as much of the daily routine and quality of life as possible, and allow patient and compassionate adjustment to new living conditions. Help the animal find enduring connections with their new family or caregiver through communication and interspecies counseling. Here are some of the resources, and I will have a PDF of this on my website. I'm available for communication as well as for healing for PTSD. And as an animal chaplain, I also provide counseling for people and animals. I also will have a list, and the list that I will post are people who are mentoring with me currently to be interspecies counselors. And these are some of the best communicators that I know. They're so good in their skills, I don't think of them as students anymore. I think of them as colleagues. And so you can trust anyone on that list. Penelope Smith on her website, animaltalk.net, has a list of professional animal communicators. They do not have to be local. We all do remote work very well. To find an animal chaplain, there is a list of certified animal chaplains on findanimalchaplain.com. The Flower Essence Society has the following that are really, really helpful in helping both animals and people manage their grief. Grief relief, post-trauma stabilizer, animal relief formula, 5-flower formula, which is identical to Rescue Remedy, and compassionate caregiver. The Reverend Jenny Makita is a colleague of mine. She's an animal chaplain. She is also a lawyer who works with animals. She can give legal advice. She can do chaplaincy work and support. She can give you the language to make up a directive or a will, or language to give your own lawyer, but you can talk it over with her at animalblessings.love. And Miranda Wimbush is in Canada, actually. She has a tremendously good program for people. She has a heart connection program that is a grief and loss support for people. She's also a holistic canine coach. She has summits and conferences, lots of education about the relationships between humans and dogs. And finally, holisticactions.com is a holistic veterinary service and website for pet parents. They have hundreds of topics. There is a free membership, there is a paid membership. And you can go there and get advice on how to approach grief and loss with the animal. I encourage you to consult with a professional animal communicator of your choice. And if you need a death doula, check in with thedyingyear.com. Thank you. I hope this has been helpful for you. And I would look forward to hearing and being able to help some of you who find yourselves in this situation. Thanks for listening.